I'm one of those people who would rather spend a quiet evening at home than hang out with a wild crowd. The minute someone has a few too many and starts acting up, it practically makes me sick. It's just so gross to watch someone stumble around, barely able to stand, yelling incoherently, or worse, starting a fight. And let's be real, more often than not, when people get drunk together in a big group, they end up getting a little too close for comfort. Sure, I can go out for a drink with a couple of friends, but I'm not into any of that crazy drama. Office parties? Now that's something I absolutely can't stand. People who work together throw a boozy bash, and suddenly everyone's hugging like they're best friends. Sometimes these folks are practically enemies at work, yet a few shots in, they're acting all buddy-buddy. It's downright absurd. And the aftermath? Arguments with coworkers or family. Maybe someone even gets fired or ends up getting divorced. Who wants to deal with that? My girlfriend, however, loves these things. Let's call her Ashley. She's all about dancing to loud music and partying with her coworkers. Sure, sometimes good friends end up arguing after these events, but Ashley generally keeps it together, except when it comes to corporate parties. That's when she really cuts loose. In fact, she once told me that one of her serious relationships ended because of a drunken work event. Her boyfriend at the time, he was out of town and couldn't go, so she went solo. She got so wasted that she woke up in the arms of some guy from a different department. Her boyfriend refused to forgive her, and that was that. 1.5 years of dating over. According to Ashley, she learned a hard lesson from that incident. I believed her. I really thought something that intense would stick with her for life, so it wouldn't happen again. Turns out I was wrong. Ashley and I had been together for a while, and eventually we moved in with each other. We even set a wedding date. She'd been talking for ages about how she wanted to start a family. I was happy to see her becoming more responsible. Then I found out just how easy it was for her to toss all that responsibility aside after a few cocktails. Right before New Year's, she was being extra sweet, almost over the top. I could tell she was buttering me up for something, and I assumed it must be something pricey like a new phone. She kept doing all these nice little things for me, from cooking my favorite meals to, well, everything else. After a few days, I thought it might be a good time to ask what was up. Hey babe, you've been amazing lately. I mean, you're always great, but these last few days you've been spoiling me. Should I be expecting a request for a new smartphone or a fancy coat or something? Her eyes lit up for just a second, then she gave me this sweet, casual shrug. You're imagining things, she said with a little smile. I'm just a wonderful girlfriend, that's all. I knew there was more to it, but I let it slide, waiting for her to spill the beans when she was ready. Then one evening, she came up to me practically glowing. So my company's having a big holiday party. I really want to go. Picture this. My boss actually shelled out some serious money for it. He's even bringing in a famous singer for the night. People are coming from all our offices around the country. It's going to be huge. And my favorite artist is performing. I mean, this is like a dream come true. I knew that singer was indeed someone she loved, but just hearing the word corporate gave me a knot in my stomach. Even worse was the idea of a giant crowd of coworkers. But then again, nobody would hire a headliner for a small gathering. I told her I needed to think about it, but somehow I found myself agreeing to let her go. Looking back, I wish I had stuck to my gut. I really do. For a while, I blamed myself for giving her the green light. But if I'm being honest, it wasn't my fault. The night of the party, I helped her pick out her outfit, everything from the right underwear to her favorite little dress. I looked her over from head to toe and told her she looked gorgeous, although I did mention the dress might be a bit short. This is the last time, Ashley said as she finished her makeup. I'm just going to dance to my favorite songs, try some salads, sip a good cocktail, and then next New Year's I'll be a married woman. She sounded so happy that I actually felt bad for almost denying her this chance, especially if it was her last hurrah. Hey, just promise me you won't go chasing after the singer, I teased. Then I went off to watch TV. She left looking like $1,000,000. Ashley had promised she'd be home soon, but as the night dragged on, she still hadn't returned. I tried calling her a couple of times, and eventually she picked up. Her voice sounded light, almost carefree, as she assured me that everything was fine and that she'd be heading home soon. Relieved but still uneasy, I settled onto the couch, waiting for her. At some point, exhaustion took over, and I drifted off to sleep. I was jolted awake by a loud clattering at the door. The noise echoed through the quiet apartment, and I rushed to see what was going on. There she was, Ashley, practically falling into the apartment. She struggled to get the key in the lock, her movements clumsy and uncoordinated. She was swaying, using the walls and furniture to keep herself upright, and dropping everything she was holding as she stumbled through the door. I quickly helped her remove her shoes and guided her to our bed. She collapsed on top of the covers, still wearing the party dress she had left in. I grabbed a blanket and gently laid it over her, realizing she was far too out of it to even consider changing into something more comfortable. As I turned to head to the kitchen to make some coffee, her voice, dreamy and slurred, stopped me in my tracks. "Let's go one more time," she murmured, reaching for my pants with surprising accuracy despite her intoxicated state. I froze. Her words echoed in my mind. One more time. I thought. Compared to what? Was there a first time tonight that I didn't know about? My heart pounded in my chest as my mind raced. I tried to rationalize it, telling myself that maybe she was just so out of it that she lost track of time. Maybe she was referring to the last afternoon or something else entirely. But the unease lingered. I gently removed her hand and stepped back, heading toward the kitchen when her voice called me again. "Come here," she whispered, tossing the blanket aside. When I glanced over, my breath caught in my throat. Her dress had hiked up, and what caught my attention wasn't just that, it was her underwear. It was on backwards, clearly reversed. I blinked, thinking I might be imagining things, but no. It was unmistakable. Panic and confusion surged through me. Earlier that evening, I had helped her get dressed. Everything had been perfectly in place. How could someone accidentally take off their underwear in a bathroom and put it back on backwards? Even drunk, that seemed unlikely. There was only one logical conclusion, and it hit me like a punch to the gut. Then another detail struck me. She wasn't wearing her bra. The same bra I had helped her pick out just a few hours earlier. It was gone. Nowhere to be found. The weight of the situation settled heavily on my shoulders. This wasn't just suspicion. This was a painful, undeniable truth. In a daze, I pulled her up, helped her get dressed enough to leave the house, and practically carried her to my car. The early morning streets were empty as I drove, my mind spinning with thoughts and emotions I couldn't untangle. As the car moved, Ashley stirred and, with a cheerful excitement, asked, "Are we going to karaoke? You promised we'd go to karaoke." I gripped the steering wheel tightly, trying to hold back the storm inside me. Who promised her karaoke? Was it the same person who helped her out of her bra? The questions clawed at me as I pulled up to her parents' house. It took some effort, but I managed to haul her inside. Her dad, still half asleep, answered the door. Ashley, still swaying, shouted, "Yes, karaoke," at the top of her lungs. I kept my voice steady as I said, "I'm sorry it's so early, but she's yours now." Both her parents stared at me, then at their daughter, trying to make sense of the situation. Continuing quietly, I added, "The wedding's off. I'll send her things by courier. Please, there's no need for you to come over." Her mother looked heartbroken, tears welling up in her eyes as she tried to ask something but couldn't form the words. "What? How are you?" she stammered. I shrugged, the pain evident in my voice. "I think her appearance explains a lot. And if you're still confused, maybe check if she's got all her underwear from the corporate party." With that, I turned and walked away. Every step felt heavier than the last. I loved her deeply. I had envisioned a future with her, a wedding, a life together, maybe even kids one day. But all of that shattered in a single night. Whether it was because she wasn't ready to give up her partying lifestyle, or because she lacked the morals for a committed relationship, I couldn't say. What I did know was that I couldn't ignore what had happened. And as much as it hurt, I was grateful to learn the truth before the wedding, or, worse, before starting a family. If there's one thing this experience taught me, it's that when planning a future with someone, it's crucial to take a hard look at their past. People rarely change. Really rarely.